resonate both the light and the shadow?
Yes.
You resonated more with the shadow?
Yeah, kind of like, because the shadow is like more of a self-destructive, and
Right.
I do have that, but it's not always, so I can resonate more with the light. Because with the light, it's just, you get the warning that you're going into self-destructive mode, and that's what happens to me. But
Okay.
sometimes I don't listen to that warning, and I just go to the self-destructive.
And it's so interesting because all you draw is eyes.
Yeah.
Her eye is open. She's seeing that she's going to participate in this self-destructive, modality.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean that you don't do it. Trust me. I mean, that is me 101.
I get it, but
You
like,
get it, but then you're like, whatever.
Yes,
Exactly.
whatever.
But isn't that
Yeah.
interesting? Because she's constantly drawing eyes, and it's like the third eye. It's like the eye on the dollar bill. It's the all-seeing eye. So it's not that we don't see or know, and everybody, had some feeling about their card, that we don't know what we do, both light and shadow. It's that, what is it in us, that self-destruction mode that says, screw it, I don't care, I'm just going to keep
yeah.
self-destructing.
And I know it, and it's just like when I'm in that self-destructive thing, and just in a minute I'm like, oh shit, whatever.
Right. C'est la vie. Okay, so we don't have to do it again. I kind of wanted to see what you guys felt, if it resonated. But do you guys want to do this again?
Oh, no, we just we mixed them up and we put them back down just like so that if you wanted to do it with us, I don't know.
Okay, so you don't need these cards. So these are the Carolyn Mace archetype cards. I have a handout, and we're going to do that in a little bit, but I definitely want to just finish something that I started the other day and that I want to piggyback off the other day. With clients or with yourself or in a guided meditation or whatever, you can just put the names on a piece of paper, the different types of archetypes, face down and do the same activity. You don't ever need to buy what's out there. Obviously, people have this stuff. So we could do the same exact activity, like we printed out the villains and the heroes, and do it that way too. So it doesn't have to be that you need cards. So if you're attracted to something like this, we can do it just with little pieces of paper. You can do it with your family, you can do it with your friends. Okay, so you guys choose. You guys want to pick another card and kind of see where it resonates? No, you're good with your vampire? Okay, okay.
Yeah,
So
she was
I'm
the one
gonna
saying
give you
that.
this sheet and we'll do this. So I just printed out Jung's archetypes. And we're gonna do two things with this, okay? So yesterday I was kind of looking at the astrology stuff because we'll get to more of that. And we'll do some health stuff, and I know you guys asked about that the other day. And we will get to that. But all of this is based, as I explained, on those constellations, which is the astrology wheel. So he gave his archetypes 12 names. Carolyn gave it more names and elaborated. One of the things we're going to do is I'm going to have you give your own archetype your name. So for instance, the example I used was the innocent. Could be unicorn. You call it your unicorn. Okay, so the part of you but what you want to name it. This is very personal because you can relate to your aspects of your psyche when it's your words, when it's your stuff. Okay? The other thing is that this sheet of paper has goal and fear. It's the 0 and the 100 of the archetype. So I want you to pick, after I lecture on this stuff, the 3 that most resonate with you. And the reason I'm having you do 3, because this we're going to then tie in to the astrology wheel. What I do is archetypal astrology. And I call it archetypal astrology because I use these archetypes from the planets and the myths. And the sun, the moon, and the ascendant, which we briefly looked at when we did the elements lecture, those are going to be your main 3 archetypes. So I want to see, when we do your wheel, how close you pick to your 3 archetypes on your chart. So we'll do that as we get, further along.
Now I got cold.
Yeah, okay. Okay, compassionate companion. So the other thing is with the 0 to the 100 is when you pick your 3, I want to see which one you tend to go to, 0 to 100. And I want you to come up with strategies for how you're going to get closer to the 48 to 52 for your 3 main archetypes, okay? So if you're, for instance, the rebel, you have revolution or you have no power. Part of your illness is your powerlessness because it can happen anywhere. Other people are responsible for you. So there has to be, remember, middle ground. That's your 48 to 52 for your archetype. There has to be that middle between the 0 to the 100. Okay? So we'll pass this out, but I want to talk to you a little bit about these. And these are all over the internet. There are a bunch of different names. I usually just use the planets because that's what I use, but they all mean the same thing. They all overlap the same. So last week we were talking about myth, and we were talking about the psychological aspects, sort of like your psychological organs. So yesterday I brought this downstairs, and this is Kali in the Hindu tradition. You like her? And that's you from San Miguel Arcangel in the, more of the Christian tradition, that he's stomping on the devil, even though Shiva's not the devil. But, and I got a lot of response. It was on my desk, and everyone was like, and then we had an open house, and I put it on the table, and everyone was like looking, and it was just interesting to get the, sort of the reaction. So Kali is considered the goddess of destruction, okay? And if you remember, what did I tell you about the 7 gates? What happens when we finally strip ourselves of the false self and we're left naked like Inanna? What happens at that gate?
We die.
We first die. Okay, so there has to be a destruction. You can never, ever, ever, okay, and James, you'll appreciate this since you like positive stuff. You can never, ever, ever have a rebirth. So Shiva, she's stepping on Shiva, who is also a counterpart of a god of destruction. But they rule the 2nd chakra, which we'll talk about. And without knowing, I wore the color of Shiva and the 2nd chakra today. That might bode well for me. That you have to destroy something in order to create something. You cannot create something new without destroying something. Now, interesting, her name is Kali, or the Hindus call her Kali Ma, and her tongue is hanging out, and she's got a severed head, and, she has skulls, and she's scary, and everyone in India is like, oh my God, Kali, she's so scary. And I saw this Indian movie many years ago, and it was an American who was like working at one of these American companies, and they made him work in India, and he fell in love with an Indian woman, and she took him like on a trip. They were gonna have clandestine sex and whatnot, and they have to take like this little ferry to this island so that no one in her family would see her that she was with a man, because you can't do that in India. And he sees a statue of Kali, and he's like, what is that? And she goes, don't look, don't look. That's Kali, goddess of destruction. And then on the way back, the whole port had blown up. And she's like, I told you, Kali destroys everything. Like, you know, obviously very literal, but we must, in order to get to our true selves, which is to create our true self, we must destroy something false in us. We must. There is no option. The pie only has 100%. So something's got to give so that you have your new piece. That's just basic math. So it's no different in our psyche. So that's why oftentimes it's not about giving a solution, and it's not about, you know, telling them what to do. It is a behavior that has to change, or an awareness around something like the saboteur, to then decide if she feels like changing. And then, you know, we do our work. But this is super, super important. And the other thing that Kali actually stands for is Kala. And Kala is time. Remember when I taught you about Chronos and Kairos? Time versus opportune time? Time is our enemy in this lifetime. Remember, we have chaos, Uranus, and Saturn. We have chaos and we have rules and structure. Saturn is father time. Same thing. I am now 45 years old. As much as I would like to think, I don't, but if I wanted to be 20, I couldn't. Time is passing. Time kills us. Time is death. So the name itself speaks of death, speaks of destruction. We have so much time to change, to destroy our false self, to create something new. That's why people are like, don't waste time, opportune time, you know, take advantage of the time every minute. When people get to these states, they're like, oh my God, you know, don't live like the ego in the future. What's coming? Enjoy now, the present moment, because that's all we have. So that's what that's all related to. Okay, so Kali is really, she's actually called the dark mother. Okay, so she is nurturing, because the true mother, or the true divine mother, the true divine goddess over here, allows you to carve your own path, to destroy what is not yours. Why would it be, think what I've taught you, why would it be that the dark mother, which is also the divine mother, and we're going to talk about this in a second, because in Hinduism you'll see a lot of versions, but I specifically want to talk about Kali. Why would the dark mother of destruction be revered as the one that allows you to create yourself, your true self? What is it inherently that she is giving you permission to do?
Start over?
From what?
Dying.
From complete destruction, like from nothing.
But
Start from
destruction
zero.
of what?
Of
Of
yourself.
yourself.
Okay, and what is that? Elaborate.
The false self, like just.
Okay, but where did the false self come from?
From everything around you,
From the whole entire situation.
From not when you're born, from the moment of conception. From the moment of conception, your false self is created. I need you to understand this. It is an egg and it is sperm. And your parents had what? Yes, they had sex, but they had what?
I don't know. They have their own faults.
They had their own faults. So of course, if they have faults, your false self is created. But they had needs. And what was your job?
To meet those needs.
To meet their needs. the dark mother, the divine mother, the true goddess, allows you to destroy what you are not, which is her. Which is her and your father, which is the essence of what you're built on. And without words, says, kill off anything that is not me and your dad. Kill off your false self. And like Jesus says to Nicodemus, be reborn. And Nicodemus, who was supposedly some great religious leader, says, how am I supposed to go back into my mother's womb? And Jesus had to look at that guy like, man, you are dumb. Like he had to wonder that this guy represented like his church and say, really, moron? I mean, come on now. And what did he say? He goes, you birth yourself from yourself. The only way to birth yourself from yourself is second chakra, which we'll talk about in a minute. This is the color. Is by killing off your false self, going down, 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 like Inanna, and then what I call evolution. So we have involution and evolution, and our new true self is born. And most people will not go through this process because we hold on to our Costco card and say, no, I'm an Alabart, I'm a Garcia, I'm a Yahia, I'm a Martin. Nope, I'm keeping those qualities of my mommy and my daddy, because in the psyche, what would happen if you would, I don't have my sword, I kept my sword, I have a sword in my house. So we'll use Kali's sword. If I took Kali's sword and went pa, 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 to my false self all the way down, what would happen? What would happen to the psyche?
You betraying.
There you go.
You what?
Betraying.
You're like,
Well, you would think you're betraying your parents, but what would happen to the psyche?
Oh, be confused.
Uh, Confused, chaotic? You would
You would chop it all up.
you would like lay down and die and say, surrender.
Who am I?
Who the fuck am I? Hallelujah.
Yeah.
And when you get to that point of your identity crisis, of who the fuck am I? Then you start with your return back up, the ascension, Jesus resurrected. But unless you die, what you were given at the moment of conception, your false self, this is very difficult. Very, very, very few, if ever anyone, has done this. Hell if I know. But this is what we're accomplishing or trying to as we get deeper and deeper and deeper into the psyche, into the truth of who we are. And our false self serves us to belong. It is very scary to say, who the fuck am I? And where's my place? And not have an answer. I don't know who the fuck I am. I don't know where I belong. I'm in total chaos. The rug has been... So that's why it often takes these levels of like just chaos and crisis in our life to go boop, 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 like the Jenga, the dominoes. Because we're not usually willing to do it on our own. We're not usually just like, fucking kill me. Because we have a desire to live. Biology rule number 1, survival, right? So most of us stay in that survival mode. So this is extremely important, and that statue is considered like the divine mother, the dark mother, and she's scary as fuck because this process is scary as fuck. And everything she's wearing has symbolism, and we'll go through that in another class, but I wanted to just sort of piggyback on that from the other day. And then I wanted to talk about the polytheistic and the monotheistic. So one of my absolute favorite people in the world, I wish I would have met him before he died, is Joseph Campbell. And Joseph Campbell made a life out of studying mythology. And he's written a ton of books. If you have Netflix, you can Google him, and he has a bunch of things on there, great videos. Some are boring to other people, not to me. He has a famous book called Hero with 1,000 Faces. He's written a ton of stuff. I could bring stuff in. And he went and sort of understood that all of these, cultures had the same sort of, themes like we talked about the other day. So he was giving a lecture, and he says this quite a few times in one of his lectures, or several of his lectures, that there was someone in the audience sitting next to, I think, a priest or a pastor, someone of the Christian denomination. And the person who was listening to him lecture, sitting next to this person, was a devout, like Joseph Campbell, like lover. And Joseph Campbell starts talking about the God within. And the guy next to him, the priest guy, says, that's sacrilegious, okay? The God, and just to fuck around, I'm gonna make it with a capital G. And this person told Joseph after the talk, and I think, if I remember the story correctly, that person might have been from the Eastern philosophy, but I don't remember. So what happens is we're from the Western world. Where were we told that God lives?
Within us.
I don't know what school or
Heaven.
church you went to.
No, God lives in
Where?
heaven and
God lives in heaven. Where else?
and in church,
And in church. And where else?
In the house? No.
Everywhere.
in prayer, and yeah, and like
God is everywhere.
yeah,
God is
everywhere.
light, God is
Okay, everywhere but. Exactly. Now, how many of you have gone or go to church? And what happens when you go get communion?
You supposedly eat God.
Say it.
Bring them within.
Yeah.
You're taking what?
Taking his
Taking God,
within you.
and you are putting it in you because you have a big ass void. Because God ain't in you. You need to eat the fucker. You need to crumble that cracker or let it dissolve and let that thing go in you because you are devoid of God. You don't have God, and you don't have God, and none of you. You're all the devil. You need to take a piece of cracker and say, God, enter me. What do you think that does to the psyche when God is outside, is everything but you? Now, Pal already knows that she's the devil. So she's got this figured out. She ain't got no problem. You're the healthiest one in the room. What does that do to a psyche, especially little kids that are getting ready for their communion? Anyone see the movie Lady Bird?
Yeah.
Yeah.
When they're sitting with their legs on the wall, her and her friend go to Catholic school, and they took the communion crackers, and they're just eating the communion crackers. That's the best scene of that fucking movie. I love that. And I was not crazy about that movie. That movie was hit me too hard. But that part was funny as fuck. Two Catholic girls just freaking chomping on the fucking body of Christ. You can't get more sacrilegious than that.
That's the only that's
So
the
what
main
does
reason
that
why we
do?
used to go up, was
That-
just to eat those, me and my brother. We didn't know anything, like even when I just renewed my vows at the church, I didn't even know anything that had to do with anything, like as far as what they were asking. And I still got the little certificate and we were able to renew our vows, which we weren't there for the church. We just did it because we wanted to renew our vows. But like even in the class, like when the guy was talking to like all of us that were in the class, I was like, when I was a kid, I don't remember any of this. We would fall asleep in church all the time, and all we wanted to do was just eat the little bread.
Yeah, but
You
your
know?
subconscious was listening.
We didn't I don't
You
even.
better get up for that communion, because God is out in that cracker.
Oh
And if you
yeah.
don't fucking put God inside of you,
Yeah.
you are the devil.
I remember them telling us you'll go to hell and
Exactly.
crazy stuff, and I was like,
Exactly. So, the fact that in the Western world, God is outside, it creates a problem in the psyche. This is why so many people think when I meet my partner, when I get the job, when I have that car, when I get that title, when that person fills in the blanks, buys me flowers. Because we are trained that God, whatever, and we talked about the other day, there are a lot of gods. Money can be a god, relationship can be a god, sex can be a god, a car can be a god, is outside. That puts us in a very, very vulnerable position in the Western world. And we were also taught, because Judeo-Christian, is that it's God. One God sitting on a throne,
With angels.
that's how. If we're
judging you if you don't eat the cracker correctly. You better chomp on that 32 times.
that's probably like God is a spirit. We're spirits. So how do we have spirits within us if we're
Right, but this is all your conscious mind. And when you're this little and you're going to church or Santa Claus or whatever the hell it is that your parents use to control you to have you behave, which is absolutely necessary, don't get me wrong, okay? We need this. We talked about rules and the purpose of these religions. It's not an anti-religion class. People, please understand that. I am not anti-anything, obviously, okay? But the one God that is not you or you or you or you is where? Out the fuck there. And there's a gazillion of us, and we gotta go, fuck, I gotta go find him. And now we're all competing, ego. We're all living for the next thing, ego. So who the hell is really living in the present moment? No one. Because you're too busy beating people up, criticizing, competing, gossiping. Because God is out there, and you gotta be the first to get him. Although in the Bible it said, and in the Kabbalah it said, that we're all gonna get to God, and everyone is gonna wait. But people like Daniela are gonna be the fucking first one. She's like, fuck you all. We'll wait for you, but I'm gonna be the first one, bitch. I got it! Ha 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 ha! You were second and third. The heavens, the world will not start again until every single one of us gets there. But the Anielas of the world, which is like everyone in the Western world, has that mentality. I better get there first. We see it in Disney World.
Yeah.
I mean, we see it in Disney World. Come on, okay? Fast Pass. And now they changed the Fast Pass, and it's like, oh my God, the trick, and you have your friends, okay, do this, and then get the Fast Pass here, and then go to the next one, but make sure to time it the right way so that you're in fucking Disney World, people. I mean, it's really crazy.
It's gonna be packed no matter what you do.
Because God is out there, and what is God for most people? Happiness. For most
I would say
people,
Hope.
it's happiness. I mean, we already discovered that every single life is a Greek tragedy and that moments of happiness might exist. So if God is out there equating to happiness, I must be a loser if I can't get first or happy or enjoy this, or my sex life sucks, or my relationship sucks, or my job's a piece of shit, or my car isn't fancy. And we are in a